The first full Saturday of college football picks, Joe Duffy's picks. We're going to give you a couple free winners for today, and we're going to give you the sharp information that professional gamblers love to use. At first, you know what? I'm going to take a look at a couple free picks on some marquee games, Oregon and Georgia. Now, this game did open up at 17.5 and 50.5. The last line I saw was 17 and 53. This half-point line move, it's definitely noteworthy. 17 is a key number, and every pro bettor certainly knows the value of that. The public adores the underdog here. I'm really surprised, to be honest with you. 65% of the bets and 77% of the money is on the Ducks. Of course, Georgia is fresh off of winning their second national championship, so the public's thinking a couple things here. First of all, you win a national championship, you're going to be undervalued, and they lost substantial talent to the NFL, especially on defense. Only 3 returning starters on that line of scrimmage, but remember, Kirby Smart is now one of the top 3 recruiters in the country. He's had a recruiting class that, depending on who you pay most attention to, has been, first, second, third, ever since he took over here. So they are a classic example of a we don't rebuild, we reload. Bo Nix, he makes a lot of mistakes for Oregon, and Georgia still has enough talent on defense where I do think they're going to force him into making quite a few mistakes. Now, this is listed as a neutral game, but it's not. It's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, so this is basically a home game for the University of Georgia, traveling just 61 miles. Oregon, 2,176. Yeah, I understand how they'll probably have some fans making the trip, but this is a clear neutral field advantage, as I like to call it, for the Bulldogs. This would normally be a big contrarian play when the public is all over underdogs. It's a great fade, but there is an exception. Ranked public underdogs are fairly good. So despite losing the enormous talent, or I should say fading ranked underdogs, you're betting against ranked underdogs is pretty good. So despite losing enormous talent, Georgia's still stacked with top-line talent. They're going to have a partisan crowd fired up here. So, again, it's still a little bit of a contrarian lean, not a super strong contrarian play because, as we said, generally bad at public underdogs, unless that team's name is Nebraska, are good plays. But we are going to bet on the University of Georgia here. Notre Dame and Ohio State. Ohio State minus 17, 59.5. Now, this game opened up at 14.5 and 58. And although 56% of the tickets are on the Irish, 68% of the handles on Ohio State, that implies that the sharps are betting on Ohio State. Extremely rare case of such a highly ranked underdog getting so many points in the history of my database. It goes back to 1995, okay? Top 5 ranked teams getting 17 or more, 30 and 16 against the spread, including actually 30 and 14 in the last 44. And that goes back to last century. And it's important to note this, despite the fact they're only 5 and 41 straight up. So once again, dispelling the square myth, the only bet on an underdog if you believe they're likely to win outright. Now, Ohio State alumni Marcus Freeman makes his debut as head coach for the Irish. This gives Notre Dame kind of the element of surprise. Ohio State has very little film or intel to prepare for, why Notre Dame certainly does. And, it's a cliche, but they had all offseason to prepare for it. Look, with stud tight end Michael Mayer, Notre Dame should be able to do a solid job of moving the ball against Ohio State. Their defense, Ohio State's defense is not very good. Their offense is. Now, the Buckeyes' offense is possibly the most talented offense in the country, but Notre Dame will have success against that defense. They have 15 starters returning. From a motivational standpoint, it's a lot more important for the Irish to stay competitive than Ohio State to make a statement blowout. Look, it's possible where Notre Dame, if they say lose this game, a very close game, and then they run the table, they could definitely make the Final Four. And at the very least, Notre Dame at times, they've struggled in some big games, although they were competitive against Georgia a couple years ago. I just think this game means too much to Notre Dame to stay close, and there's what is the statement motivation for Ohio State? I mean, they win and they go undefeated. They're going to be in the Final Four, so there's not really a statement game needed for Ohio State. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame as a free pick. All right, now let's take a look at some news and notes for the Saturday portfolio, please visit offshoreinsiders.com. Support this free information and make sure you subscribe to us on Twitter at Offshore Insider. Yes, there's no S because of character limitations. Offshore Insider on Twitter. Arizona and San Diego State. Now, often 1-11 straight-up season, and adding stud Washington State transfer Jaden DeLaura as a starting quarterback. Zona could definitely sneak up on some teams this year. They're going to be dangerous. San Diego State is also breaking in Braxton Burmeister, who is a Virginia Tech transfer. Now, San Diego State is 7-2 straight up to the Pac-12 and rumored to be headed there, so you could say this would be a quote-unquote statement game for them. Yeah, I guess I used that term a couple times, but it is important when you're talking about some motivation. In fact, retired journeyman handicapper O.C. Dooley, I don't totally agree with him, but he does think that, the fact that San Diego State are going to be opening a new $310 million stadium, going to be big motivational. The fans are going to be a little more excited. Again, sometimes in the news and notes, I know what a lot of gamblers like, so I am going to report it, even if I don't always agree with it. Texas State and Nevada. Nevada does have a game under their belt. College football underdogs in their first game of the year versus an opponent playing their second game are actually a good play. 159, 122, and 6 since 2008. This would point to Texas State. Now, there's a couple theories behind this. There is an old cliche that hasn't really proven true. The teams improve their most from their first to the second game. So a lot of people, I think the number is always going to be shaded to a team playing their second game than a team playing the first game. But the truth is, the team that's playing their first game, they've been able to focus on this game, and they actually have game film from the previous week to look at. Nevada's offense struggled against a hard New Mexico State team with just 2 returning starters. It did get a little bit better, though, as the game went on. Miami, Ohio, at Kentucky. Very optimistic year for the Wildcats, so again, they might have a little motivation for a blowout year. Wildcats fans, I think they're a little delusional. They think they could be a great dark horse team this year, but I do think there is clear motivation for a big win. However, they do have a couple suspensions. Their top running back, Chris Rodriguez for Kentucky, among several suspensions. And could this be a look-ahead game, maybe? Wildcats' next game is to Florida. And that's where they can really make a little bit of a statement. Although, that Florida, a little bit of an off year for them. They're rebuilding too, but still, bigger statement next week. So you can see how there would be a look-ahead. Cincinnati and Arkansas, the Bearcats going to be replacing 8 NFL draft picks from their best team ever. I guess I should have shut my phone off, right? And that includes, of course, star wide receiver Desmond Ridder. Oregon and Georgia, we talked about this game. The dog, we talked a lot about this game already in our free pick. Keep in mind that Oregon did beat Ohio State early last year on the road, and Georgia defensive coordinator, the former coordinator Dan Lanning, takes over as head coach for Oregon, so that could be considered an advantage for him. NC State and East Carolina, this total is a significant drop from 56 to 52. Now, there is a 49% chance of showers, but winds only at 7 miles per hour. Now, this could be a showcase game for Heisman dark horse quarterback Devin Leary. So I think a lot of people do believe we could see the score run up a little bit. And look, big weekend from all of our handicappers. Do you know that we're going to have the bet at Trinity for the time being on sale for $52, normally $64. Stevie Vincent, more than 125 games above 500 since June. We're not kidding. Best run in sports betting history. 3 NCAA football winners, including Ohio State and Notre Dame, total. And we'll wait. We do know that Master Lockline told us they've already have a couple big sports service plays up for Saturday. I know at Joe Duffy's Picks, we are going to have our first, we're going to have a Wise Guy play on Saturday. So make sure you visit offshoreinsiders.com all weekend long.